back here with us on Times Now. Viewers, it's a new turn to judiciary versus executive face-off. Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar recently criticized the Supreme Court for imposing a deadline on the president. Now, BJP MP Nishikant Dubey has joined the debate, launching a strong attack on the Supreme Court, the judiciary. He stated that the Supreme Court cannot dictate to the president and claimed that by setting an ultimatum for president, the court is steering to the country towards anarchy. Nishikant Dubey did not stop at that. He went on further to state that the Supreme Court is responsible for inciting religious wars in the country. Listen in.
आर्टिकल 368 क्या कहता है? आर्टिकल 368 कहता है कि इस देश के संविधान को, पार्लियामेंट को सभी कानून बनाने का अधिकार है। कानून की व्याख्या करने का अधिकार सुप्रीम कोर्ट का है। वो कह रहा है कि 3 महीने में जो है राष्ट्रपति बता दें कि क्या करना है, 3 महीने में गवर्नर बता दें कि क्या करना है। आप जब राम मंदिर का विषय होता है तो आप राम मंदिर में कहते हो कि कागज़ दिखाओ, कागज़ दिखाओ। कृष्ण जन्मभूमि का मामला आएगा मथुरा में तो कहोगे कागज़ दिखाओ। आप जब शिव की बात होगी, ज्ञान वापी मस्जिद की बात आएगी, कागज़ दिखाओ। मुगलों के आने के बाद जो मस्जिद बने हैं उसके लिए कहते हैं कि आप कागज़ कहाँ से दिखाओ। इस देश में धार्मिक युद्ध भड़काने के लिए केवल और केवल सुप्रीम कोर्ट जिम्मेवार है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का एकमात्र उद्देश्य है, शो मी द फेस विल शो यू द लॉ। सुप्रीम कोर्ट अपनी सीमा से बाहर जा रहा है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की सीमा यह है कि भारत का संविधान जिस कानून को बनाया उस कानून की उसको व्याख्या करनी है, और यदि वो व्याख्या नहीं कर सकती है और सब कुछ के लिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जाना है तो इस संसद का कोई मतलब नहीं है, विधानसभा का कोई मतलब नहीं है, उसको बंद कर देना चाहिए। जो अपॉइंटिंग अथॉरिटी है उसको आप निर्देश कैसे दे सकते हैं? भारत के चीफ जस्टिस का अपॉइंटमेंट भारत का राष्ट्रपति करता है। इस देश का कानून भारत का पार्लियामेंट बनाता है। उस पार्लियामेंट को आप डिक्टेट करेंगे कि राष्ट्रपति को 3 महीने के अंदर फैसला करना है? ये किस कानून में लिखा हुआ है? इसका मतलब यह है कि आप इस देश को एनार्की की तरफ ले जाना चाहते हो, और एनार्की जो है इस देश में बर्दाश्त नहीं होगी। जब नया कानून आएगा, जब नया पार्लियामेंट बैठेगा, इसके ऊपर विस्तृत चर्चा होगी, और फिर से नेशनल जुडिशियल अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम जो हमने NJAC बनाया था, जिसमें कि राष्ट्रपति का चुनाव कैसे होगा, प्रधानमंत्री का कैसे चुनाव होगा, वो तो संविधान में लिखा हुआ है। लेकिन आपके भाई भतीजावाद के आधार पर जज का चुनाव नहीं होगा।
And we have a reaction coming in from the Congress party as well. Congress Neta Jairam Ramesh has said it is a bid to weaken the rights of the Supreme Court. Listen in.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट को कमजोर करने में लगे हुए हैं। सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो अधिकार हैं, संविधान जो अधिकार देता है सुप्रीम कोर्ट को, उसको काटने में, उसको कमजोर करने में लगे हुए हैं। संवैधानिक पदाधिकारी भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के खिलाफ बोल रहे हैं, मंत्री भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के खिलाफ बोल रहे हैं, सांसद भी, बीजेपी के सांसद भी अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के खिलाफ बोलने में लगे हुए हैं। क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट एक ही बात कह रही है, जब आप कानून बनाते हैं, संविधान के बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर के खिलाफ मत जाइए। अगर संविधान के खिलाफ है तो इस कानून को हम स्वीकार नहीं कर सकते।
Joining us on the broadcast are my guests. We have Tushar Gupta, who's a political analyst, Kamruzaman Chaudhary, who's a political analyst as well. Good evening to both of you. Tushar Gupta, very quickly, what do you make of this statement by Nishikant Dubey? First, it was Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar, and now we have a very strongly worded statement coming in from Nishikant Dubey.
Good evening, Heena. I think it's a well-timed statement. Let's go back to 2020, 2021, when the farm laws were stayed by the Supreme Court. Were they unconstitutional? Absolutely not. Were they passed in an unconstitutional manner? Absolutely not. Yet the Supreme Court found itself superior to the government and stayed the laws. Now, later on, the Supreme Court discovered that majority of the farmers were in favor of the farm laws. Yet that's just an example. Number two, when the Supreme Court earlier this week was debating Waqf by user, it asked a very important question. It said, how will the mosque present a deed which is maybe 300 years old or 500 years old? That's a fair question. But the Supreme Court never asked the other part of the transaction, that when Waqf goes around claiming every property of its own using Section 40 or Waqf by user, where is the paperwork then? You know, the problem here is everyone can approach the Supreme Court citing the violation of fundamental rights, and therefore every possible law that is made in the parliament can be stayed. But then what is the point of the parliament? There is a lobby that works, that ensures these petitions reach the Supreme Court. There are Kashmiri pundits who are told by the same apex court that we do not have time for you. Your grievances, your misery is just 35 years old. We do not have time for that. But yes, we are going to sit and debate how a mosque will present a deed if it's 300 or 3,000 years old. See, this is where the hypocrisy is now hurting the common Indian, and that is why the questions are being asked.
Kamruzaman Chaudhary, how will you like to respond to the statements, to very important statements made by BJP MP Nishikant Dubey?
No, I can only say that 75 years ago, the father of our constitution, Dr. Ambedkar, he had said that if the power is given to the parliament to amend the constitution very liberally, then the danger of a particular political party finding it difficult to implement its agenda, amending the constitution in order to implement its ideology cannot be ruled out. He said that this could not be permitted. Though a provision has to be made to adapt to the changing needs, the constitution cannot be permitted to be amended at the sweet will of the majority. We are a parliamentary democracy, not a majoritarian state, Heena. First and foremost, the Article 79 to 122, Articles 52 to 78, Article 124 to 147 have laid down procedures within the Constitution how the legislature, executive and the judiciary should function. But when the judiciary should interfere is when the basic doctrine of the Constitution is affected. Now, these same people who are governing the country now did not accept the Indian Constitution. Rather, its founding father, Govalkar, had said at that time that Manusmriti should have been the basis of the Indian law and not the Indian Constitution, which he believed was a imported constitution.
I think Tushar wants to respond to the point that you've made. Yes, Tushar. Very quickly.
Kamru Zaman cannot answer which fundamental right is being violated with the Waqf Amendment Act of 2025. How is the basic doctrine of the Constitution being harmed with the Waqf Amendment Act of 2025? The Waqf Amendment Act, and I'm giving that example because that is the law that is in question right now before the apex court. That is not violating anyone's fundamental right, but the opposition's political rhetoric is always this, and that is the point I made originally, that everyone will cite an imaginary violation of the fundamental rights, approach the court, and there is a lobby in place which will ensure that the petition reaches the apex court first. A lot of petitions do not make it to the Supreme Court.
Also, very quickly, Kamruzaman Chaudhary, courts can criticize legislature as well as executive. The question is, does Constitution say that Supreme Court will be untouchable?
No, absolutely not. You see, when the appointment of the election commissioner was struck down by the Supreme Court, the government brought in an ordinance like the Shahbanu ordinance, to overturn the Supreme Court judgment at that time. That case is also going on for education in the Supreme Court. This is how a democracy functions. The Supreme Court is the check and balance of a democracy, not an authoritarian or a majoritarian or a supremacist government that will impose on any law.
But who will judge the judiciary? Who will judge the judges? That's the debate that has been ignited after Vice President of India made a statement, because nothing so far has been done in Justice Verma case. That's the point that he was trying to make. Clearly, we have seen all kind of reactions on this. We'll see how it moves ahead. I'm completely out of time, but thank you very much, Tushar Gupta as well as Kamruzaman Chaudhary. Appreciate both of you for joining us. Heading into a very, very short break. We'll be back with lots more. Stay with us.